Welcome to Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I am your host, Vivian King. Tonight we have a great topic. It's been all in the news this week, having to do with, is it illegal or a crime now to feed the homeless? Let's talk about that tonight with our two great guests in the audience, in the studio rather. We have Ricky Johnson, who's homeless, and he works a lot and hangs around the criminal courthouse a lot. And we also have attorney James Stafford. He's a well-known criminal defense lawyer, property owner, and has an opinion. He'll explain the law to us and give us some opinions about it tonight. We're going to start off talking about Ricky's story tonight. So, Ricky, let's talk about you. Let's talk about what got you to be a homeless person. Tell me how you started off.
Well, I ended up being a crackhead.
About what age was that?
About 20, 24.
Okay.
I started smoking and thought it was an end thing at the time. It was. Most people was smoking every day, all day. And then I went to jail 2-3 times and ended up losing my family and going to the penitentiary and didn't have nobody to come home to. So that made me the homeless. When I did come home, I was in like a halfway house. And a halfway house, you know, put you out in the streets to whoever accept you, you know. And when you get enough money to go where you want to go. So I didn't have enough money to really go where I wanted to go because that made me the homeless. So that's basically it, you know.
So you
but
said
I changed.
You did change, and that's a beautiful thing. Now, you said at about 20 years old you started doing crack, and you did it until, I guess, like 27 years.
But yeah.
27 years, so you were 47. Yeah. So that's a long time to do crack and go in and out of the penitentiary.
Yeah.
So you've been clean for 10 years.
And proud of it.
And proud of it.
Thank you, Lord.
I know, that's right. And you go to a church that feeds the homeless.
St. John.
Where I know you. You always find a seat for me on Sundays. Mm-hmm. I also go there too. And and you also kind of work or act homeless or kind of peddle in front of the criminal courthouse, right? Mm-hmm. Tell our audience what you do every day. What's a typical day for Ricky Johnson?
Well, most people didn't help me, give me different little things to work with. M&Ms, umbrellas, different little things to sell and make my ends meet, you know. So I won't just be with my hands out straight out, you know, empty.
Well, before you started doing that, were your hands just out begging?
I didn't have
umbrellas.
No, the tokens. Okay. I had bus tokens. When I came home from the penitentiary, they give you bus tokens to go look for jobs. So I had the bus tokens and stuff like that. And then I would sell them and get me something to eat. That's why I understand, because when you're hungry, you hungry. And you have to have something, because most places where you go, you have to have money to eat, you know. And if you ain't got enough money to eat, you have to go to either a homeless shelter or something like that to get fed. So I was selling my bus tokens to get me something to eat, you know.
And just coincidentally, James Stafford's wife is one of the people that helps you sell what you sell. Tell us a little bit about that.
Miss Deborah Kaiser is a nice woman that took time to ask me what was my problem, and I explained it to her. And she said, I like you because you're very ingenuity. And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but, you know.
Say it any way you want, Ricky.
Yeah, you know, and, you know, I had to get up and go about me. And she helped me and started giving me M&Ms and stuff, and I pay her back, you know. So that was.
May I interject?
Absolutely. Go ahead, James.
Of course, we saw Rick every day, and Deborah always loves the guys who are trying to figure out a way. Instead of just begging, they're trying to come away, hey, I want to sell you something. Well, Rick was selling umbrellas, and Deborah went to him and said, you know, you only sell these when it rains.
Yeah.
You need to come up with something else that people will take every day. She said, M&Ms are it, because people can take that with them and they can eat it. So she made him a deal. I will go to Sam's or Costco's, get your your M&Ms. You pay me my cost. I'm not getting. She doesn't. She can get a markup. and it's been a very successful
Yeah.
endeavor. And now you're into chewing gum too.
I'm chewing
Yeah.
gum.
We're real proud of Rick.
So when you come out of the criminal courthouse, you might run into Rick, and he'll be selling M&Ms. Still, if it's raining, he might sell umbrellas.
I still sell my umbrella.
Where do you get your umbrellas from?
Well, my friend, Ms. Jones, work inside the criminal courthouse. She started me off. Her and a nurse lady that works in jail. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know that there's a, have you heard about the new, no, wait, let's go further. Let's talk about your nighttime. So you're in front of the criminal courthouse in the daytime selling your candy or your umbrellas, and how do you live at night? Tell us, how do you live?
Well, I mostly, early in the morning, 6:30 to 6:30, I'm out in the streets, trying to make a honest dollar, That's what I call it, a honest dollar, I sell different stuff and stuff like that. In the evening, I goes up there by AT&T, UPS, and Jason Deli. And I take out the trash and do different things there. And they also let me sell my stuff around there.
Now, where's the Jason's Deli that you go to?
Right down, it's right next to UPS before AT&T.
What street
That's
is
on
that?
the corner of McKinney and Travis. Is the closest street.
Okay.
And the UPS sit on this side of Jason Deli, McKinney place.
All right, and what time do you leave there?
About 6:30, 7 o'clock at night.
And where do you go?
Back up there by on Jack in the Box on what's that street?
Wheeler.
Wheeler and
Sanderson?
I'm
Caroline?
trying to think. No, I'm trying to think the cross street, right there at Blodgett.
Oh, is it
That
Blodgett?
Blodgett, yeah.
Okay, why do you go over there?
Because that's where I rent a room. Me and another man usually be together, me and a couple of people that formed a friendship. We share the expense together. Because if you try to get you homeless and you try to go with a criminal record to get your first and last month rent, money saved up, then security deposit, 3 reference. This is what you have to do to get a house or apartment.
You can't do that?
You gonna co-sign for me?
I'm just trying to find out.
No, but I'm just saying, the majority of the time you ask somebody to co-sign, because people don't want that responsibility in case I don't live up to the responsibility. Most people don't want to co-sign for their own brothers, their mama, for real.
So you need a co-signer because you don't have a job with a W-2, is that the problem?
All that too,
And because you have a criminal record.
yeah.
Most apartment complexes won't let people live there.
To you.
Won't rent to you, okay.
You know?
So you go to a shelter that lets you pay by the day?
Yeah.
Now, you told me that, so the other guys that rent with you, they're hustlers too, right?
Yeah.
So if they don't have their ends meet, then they
So
can't
you
stay
have
at
to,
night.
like I said, that's why you have to have more than one. Because if you stuck with that one and he don't come up with his, you stuck out, Then you sleeping under the Pierce elevator, which they now done fenced off, They done fenced it off, so then run them off,
So you used to sleep under the Pierce elevator?
I have.
Okay, so if you
Half slept by Houston Community Care when it was real cold, when the blower was blowing. That was the only way to keep warm.
Okay, so where do you eat during the day?
Now that I learned how to hustle, get people to help me with the thing, I'll be able to buy me a little stuff like that. Mostly I eat like my special, Popeyes on Tuesday, Jack in the Box, most of the thing, Dollar Menu here, McDonald's,
How do you go to the restroom?
When I go in there, buy my food.
Okay, so you got to hold it that long till it's lunchtime?
Sometimes you have to learn battle control.
Let me ask you this, so like when you're in front of the courthouse so long, what time do you leave the courthouse?
About 2 o'clock.
So, but you got to go to the restroom sometime during that. Do you go into?
Usually I done learn how to control myself
Really?
the way Some people can, some people can't. I know as I get older, I'm gonna have to find me another place.
So when you leave the criminal courthouse, you go all the way to McKinney in Maine. Do you walk or do you take a
Walk.
bus? You walk all the way over there? That's a
I
long
walk
way.
the whole city.
Really?
I walk from Willow sometime all the way to town. Then I walk all the way down to Smith Street. And
Let me take a call, please. Caller, you're on.
Yeah, I was just sitting here listening to your conversation with the gentleman.
Yeah.
So basically, he's still homeless, right?
Oh yeah, he's definitely homeless. But there are places that let you rent a room, and that's what he's talking about. But if he can't hustle up on enough money, then he sleeps under the Pierce elevator. But we all know him from the criminal courthouse because Mr. Stafford and his wife have helped him do something legitimate where he can make a little bit more money. Otherwise, it's a lot of guys out there with just their hands out.
yeah.
And so Ricky
no
probably does
kind
better.
of hustle.
And don't have no hustle in them other than
And
the
if
ass.
you try to teach them how to hustle, they don't know how to do it because they mind
Yes,
them.
sir.
Well, my question is does he have any kind of spiritual support system that could help him possibly to kind of just get entirely away from that kind of lifestyle? Because, it's obvious that, you have to change people, places, and things.
Yes, sir. What is your spiritual support? He goes to St. John's, but how do you get any spiritual support about that?
I do. First of all, I'm very spiritual because I believe that God Almighty will change all things. But once again, even people in church won't co-sign for you because they feel like you are a risk, which most people are. Will you co-sign for me? Be spiritual. Now you laugh. See? That's what I'm saying.
And let me tell you,
I understand what you're saying, but will you understand that a lot of people out there don't have no spiritual, that believe that there's no such thing as a God, but they are homeless and they want to do right, but they can't.
The thing is, I've been working with homeless people for about 7 or 8 years.
Uh-huh.
And most of them that I've experienced, a lot of them are just looking for a free ride, and they want to. I have a homeless shelter right around the corner from St. John's.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And the people that I've been dealt with over the years, on the most part, they're just looking for either a free place to live, and they don't want to give drugs and alcohol completely up. But a lot of times I've seen that they want to take a break from it.
That's
a
true.
while and get their sleep and rest and clothes clean and then go right back into it. And of course that would make people obviously skeptical.
That's very true.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Pastor Vaughn.
Pastor Vaughn. You said Vaughn like V-A-U-G-H-N?
No, V-A-U-G-H-N.
Okay, that's what I tried to say. Okay, well that's good. Well, we're going to talk more about this ordinance, and if we call back, you want to say something, James?
Ask him what his position is on the ordinance.
What is your position there,
The
Pastor
feeding
Vaughn?
ordinance.
Pastor.
Pastor Vaughn, what is your position on the new feeding ordinance? And Jim Stafford's going to explain it to us in a minute, and you can call back if you don't have an opinion yet.
Right, because I don't know anything about it yet.
Okay.
Hang tight, and we're going to talk about it, and call me back, please.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Go ahead and explain that, Mr. Stafford.
Well, it's the ordinance is amendment of Chapter 20 covering charitable feeding activities, community-based activities, religious activities. What had been occurring in especially downtown business district, Edo, and other areas is that there's been so many groups that show up to feed the homeless that often it was just kind of a chaotic mess. There was no organization and there was no structure on how all this was done. Often many of the organizations would go to a known site where feeding was occurring. Houston has over 32, approximately 32 feeding sources in the downtown, close to the downtown business district, where people, either food banks or et cetera, that furnish food for the homeless. And often these religious or the churches or whoever was doing street feeding, as we call it, would go to a known shelter where that shelter was, say, serving breakfast or serving lunch, and they were duplicating, they would hand out more food to the same people. And the Coalition of the Homeless and the other, as a matter of fact, I have them named right here. It's the Meals on Wheels, Coalition of the Homeless, Houston Food Bank, and several groups that said, hey, we need to start coordinating our efforts to make sure the food that the street people are feeding to go where it's needed. This is not an anti, we don't feed the homeless. This is not the purpose of this legislation. The whole purpose of the legislation is to have coordination, to make sure that the people who need to be fed are being fed. Because there were certain groups that were just being total disrespectful of property rights. They would trespass on your property. Mm-hmm. They would go to other places, and after feeding, there would just be just trash everywhere, mm-hmm. which means taxpayers would have to pay for this cleanup. I think many of the agencies will tell you, especially as it applies to the downtown business district, if all the street feeding stopped today, we have sufficient established, health-approved kitchens to feed all of the homeless in the downtown business district. So again, this is a statute that's just bringing regulation to the feeding activities. It goes through the health department. They want to make sure that the food that's being served to the homeless is healthy, that they're not getting contaminated food. I think some of the homeless people will say, yes, we've gotten food and made us sick. And so it's just bringing coordination. And also they're trying to regulate feeding in parks without approval from the city to make sure there's not some other function going on. We're not denying them the right to feed. You just got to go through certain steps to do it.
Well, some of the complaints I think people have been raising is that, say, for example, I've had a big party for my 17-year-old and we have a lot of food left over. So traditionally, I might say, instead of throwing it away, let's go take it to the Star Hope downtown. And we'll just take all the food over there. So this new ordinance would make that a criminal offense to take the food over there without going through the right steps.
First of all, Star Hope wouldn't take it.
Okay, well, let's just say it's a lot of men under the bridge by the Star Hope.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's true. You cannot do it under the new statute.
Yeah, under this statute. So you know how it's a lot of people under the bridge.
But they wouldn't take because they said it's a health risk because they didn't prepare the food.
Because of the health risk.
Right.
It's a health risk.
Well, let's just say the people just standing under the bridge.
Okay, so
I can't now go take, with the new statute, if it passes, I can't, if I go take 2 big old pots of pot roast or leftover food to all the people that have blankets under the bridge, then this new statute makes it a crime where I could go to jail for up to, how long can I go to jail, Jim?
Well, there's no jail. It's a fine for $200 up to $2,000.
Up to $2,000. So
okay, if you don't pay
$2,000, maybe a $500.
I think it's $2,000.
Up to $2,000. I think the minimum is
okay, if you don't pay the fine, then you go to jail.
Well, I would assume that the people who are going to be fined in this situation will be organizations that can afford to pay the fine. I mean, there's no doubt there are a group of people who are going to violate this statute to test the constitutionality of the statute.
But like she said, she was just bringing food out of our house and want to give it to somebody instead of throwing it away.
Well, what if that food that she had was contaminated and a bunch of y'all got sick and died from food
she
poisoning?
just got through eating it.
Well, we don't
but
know
they
that.
got the homeless that walk around every day, people that got jobs too, that are looking in the garbage to get something to eat because they ain't got enough money on their job.
They call that, and don't they call that dumpster diving?
Yeah,
There
you
are
got
people who now
dumpster divers. I
dive.
see them.
Right.
I try to sometime up here, but they rather go there because they proud, you know?
They rather eat out of the trash can.
They don't have to ask nobody because they can reach in the garbage can. The garbage can open for them, you know? People hate to ask you even though they ain't got it. You know, you say, hey man, where you going? Oh, I know where I'm going. But they still looking around trying to find where they were trying to go, you know, because people want to be proud of that, you know. They don't want to feel like, hey, they feel lesser than a person to have to ask you for a nickel, and they really need it.
So, but what about, so one of the things that civil rights groups or AFL-CIO or the civil liberties people are upset about is, I researched this before today, is because of the activities like I described. If I wanted to go just take some leftover food from a party, like Ricky makes a good point, I just ate it, I'm fine. And so I take it there, and the homeless, otherwise, a lot of times they're eating out of dumpsters, they're eating dirty food or nasty food or recycled food that has all kind of nasty stuff and bacteria, people spitting in it and throwing up in it or whatever.
Some people do it on purpose.
Right.
Some people take food and spit in it and sit it down now, you know, for somebody to get sick. But how about the people that's really trying to do right? Really that, like you say, you had a party, you got a lot of food left over, and you want to give it to them.
I've done that before.
You know?
And
Well,
now,
sure, I think everybody has. But
I mean, you've done that.
I really don't believe that was the city council's intent to cover those type of people. I think the groups that they were focused on, and I can't speak for the city council, but based upon, since I've been living downtown now for 8 years, a lot of these groups have brought this on themselves because they are being totally defiant of showing up in front of the library. We've spent tons of tax dollars to make this a beautiful place for all residents of Houston, something that we should be proud of. But they just set up food, leave trash behind, and could care less who and what civil liberties of the property owners or the residents of downtown they violate. They think they just have the right to feed where they want to, when they want to. So as a consequence, I think the city council realized that we've got to have some order and regulations on how food is being dispersed. It was not because of mom and pop after Thanksgiving, but theoretically, if you think about it, Thanksgiving, there's plenty of places for the homeless to eat.
right.
And the downtown business district, as I've stated before, if all street feeding stopped, there is sufficient places to eat every day for the homeless to go to. If they choose to eat out of dumpsters, it's not because they don't have a place to go eat. They just refuse.
Well, wait a minute, hold on. Wait
Can
one
y'all
second.
hold that thought?
Okay.
Hold that thought, Ricky.
All
Hold
right.
for me.
I-
Caller,
yeah.
you're on.
Yeah, how you doing, Miss King?
Hey, how are you? Who is this?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm a regular caller. I try to watch you every Wednesday.
Thank you.
And you know, as I stated previously, I watch, you know, the city council meeting regularly. I watched it today, and I watched it the other day when they had
Speakers.
the live report on,
Okay.
where they were discussing the homeless situation.
Okay.
And from my understanding, is that they're not against feeding the homeless. It's like you said, if you had some food and you want to take it to the bridge, what they're saying now is that's not going to be allowed for the same reason, because food could be kept contaminated.
How do you feel about that, though? You think I should just throw it away? Or don't you think I should be able to give it to someone less fortunate than me?
Well,
After a party or Thanksgiving, or, you know, like there's arguments on both sides. I mean, I understand what Mr. Stafford is saying, but I want to be able to not throw that food away.
yeah, and like I said, I listened to a city council meeting today where they had a pretty heated discussion about that. And from my understanding, they're going to put it off for a while. They're not going to make a decision on it.
Well, how do you feel about it?
Well,
You think I should get a ticket and get a ticket and have to pay a $2,000 fine because I gave
Up to
some people?
$2,000.
I think it's actually $500.
Oh, you think it's $500? Well, the paperwork, we printed it just to see, and it's
Okay,
just a
do I
draft.
pay the $500 though?
Do you want me to pay? Should I pay $500 for not throwing the food away?
And trying to feed somebody that's hungry?
Especially when I know people like Ricky that's homeless that have tried to work hard to.
I understand where you're from. I mean, where you're coming from because, like I said, after listening to some of the people that was on the other day, and that they get together and cook food out of their house and bring it, to certain places where they can feed the homeless. And and then you have some of those council members, or not some of them, but a majority of them are against it, from my understanding.
Against the new ordinance?
Yeah, they're against the new ordinance because they were saying it's
Brown is.
infringing on your rights. And,
Yeah, and sometimes we just have too many rules. I mean, I do understand Jim Stafford's position because he's one of the people that, we need taxpayers to come in and revitalize downtown. I'm on the Houston Parks Board. We're trying to make the parks beautiful because when we try to compete with other major cities like Chicago and Philadelphia, New York, we want to have businesses come into town. And one of the things that does frustrate me about the homeless, although I love the homeless, that's why I go to a church with the homeless, because I want my money to go to feeding the homeless, my church money that I put in, is that they can be trifling and dirty. Like throw trash on the ground and things like that, and that does not help attract businesses to our downtown or let everybody enjoy downtown. So I don't really mind going to church with homeless people or being with homeless people, but I'm picking up behind the homeless people. I'm always picking up in the courthouse. I'm picking up forks and spoons, regular people.
But okay, not
just homeless, not just homeless.
Because I see a lot of people that goes to the park and everything, the different museums and stuff like that, and leave their trashes too.
That's true.
It's not
just
Well,
the
I have
homeless.
witnessed the feeding.
Yeah.
Go buy Fish and Loaves.
Yeah, I ain't saying that they don't
that-
do that. They
Where's
need
Fish
to
and
change that if
Down here
people
on Congress.
on Congress.
Fish and
Yeah,
Loaves.
but I'm saying you got
Loaves
people
and
that
Fish,
goes to
one
the
of the two.
museum also leave their trash. You got people that goes to Herman Park, upstanding citizen too. Some of them so-called people that
Loaves and Fishes.
throws the rock and hide behind it, that they also do it.
Well, one of the things, Ricky,
they get drunk and throw that beer bottle
By the way,
at your window.
Section H is the fine. It's
Oh,
on
Section
page
H.
9.
Okay.
It's $50 up to $2,000.
Yeah, I knew I saw 2,000 somewhere.
Yeah.
Ricky, on your paper it
Okay.
says 2,000 too.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
H.
there's a
And
2000.
Section H,
that could be true, but
Page 9.
Miss Adams quoted that out in one of the, I think it was ARC or something, and then Mayor Parker went back and said that she was reading something totally different what the ordinance was going to be.
Well, it can be changed. This is a draft that we have because it hadn't passed. But it does say from it says from 50.
That it would be no higher than $500.
But right now, it's the way they've written it is from $50 to no more than
But ask him,
2,000.
do he agree with it or not? Do he believe that
That could be
I should pay the $500?
Do you think I should have to pay the $500 if I feed the homeless from a leftover party? What do you think, caller?
Well, I mean, if it's an ordinance,
Do you agree with the ordinance or not? Make a
No,
state.
I don't agree with it.
Okay.
But if it's an ordinance, then
I'll have to
I
follow it.
understand that. You have to
if
follow.
you're a legitimate citizen.
Yeah,
So-
no, I'm gonna follow it.
Make sure you call city council and tell them you don't agree with
But
the
you know,
ordinance.
because the problem is, let's do an exercise. If I have some leftover food at a party tomorrow, then I would have to go through the coalition of the homeless because they're setting up these organizations that you have to go through, so the food will be stale by the time I go through all these organizations. Because usually you want to just throw it in the back of your truck and just go deliver it to them under the bridge. But like Jim said, we never think about how it's going to be cleaned up. It's not like I'm delivering a trash can with it.
And
so
then we're
I
going to
guess,
have to pay somebody that work for the coalition for the homeless.
Statement.
yes, sir.
Okay, they had suggested that they could have a feeding. I think they named 3 parts that they could legitimately do feeding when that time came. When the ordinance was passed, I think it was one in 3rd Ward. I park off of Alameda, and
The one off Alameda is probably the one in 3rd Ward. Is it further down Alameda?
I believe it is further down. Peggy.
Oh, the Peggy, the Peggy Foreman.
Peggy
Yeah,
Lipkin.
and then
Petty Lipkin, but that's the one like at Claiborne and Alameda.
Cleburne
Cleburne.
and,
I live
yeah.
in 3rd Ward. That's
Yeah,
Cleburne and
Cleburne,
Alameda.
Alameda.
That's the
But,
third
I mean,
ward.
you know, they pick in certain places for this to happen, which I don't think is right. You know?
Yeah,
Well,
the
they-
problem is the reason with an ordinance to try to compromise. I appreciate the compromise. The problem is that Peggy Park on Alameda and Claiborne is not heavy. You know, it's not a lot of homeless people over there.
That's
You
true.
need to have a place where, because a lot of kids play basketball there after school.
Yeah.
And it's by that CLC Contemporary Learning Center, that kind of alternative HISD center. But I'm not sure that they do a lot. There's a lot of homeless people. But maybe the effort would be to move the homeless people there. I don't know. But it's not a lot of shelters over there.
I'm sorry. But that's what it seemed like to me, that they was trying to pick parts for them to feed the homeless, which I don't think is right. You know, I think, okay, yeah, it was Tranquility Park?
Tranquility Park and Peggy.
The park in Third Ward, right there for Dowling and Charters, right there.
Oh, I don't know what that one is.
Emancipation Park, I
Okay.
believe.
Emancipation.
Okay,
Yeah.
Emancipation. Okay.
And the other part that you was talking about off of Scott and Cleveland. Those
Yeah,
are the three main
that's
feeding
Peggy
areas that they
Park.
was, at least Mel Parker was talking about, that they had chosen to feed the homeless.
Well, I do think that we need a cleanup effort downtown. And to comment on what Ricky said, although regular citizens do leave trash, a lot of times because we pay a fee to go into the zoo or to the museum or to places like that, then there is staff to clean up behind them because that's a part of the fee to admission. You know, you would think because they'll have people there. The problem with the homeless doing it is that there's nobody to pick up the trash, and so some areas just get trashed
But ain't
out.
nothing wrong with if people understand, get them to pick it up.
That it could be picked up, you know, on a daily basis by the city or whenever they pick
All
up.
the homeless.
Well, if we
If
could
the
just, we need
homeless-
to encourage the homeless
yeah.
to pick it up.
I'm saying that the city could compromise and put up trash bins and stuff like that for that situation.
Yeah.
It's a public park, right? So why not do that?
I agree. What do you think about that, Jim?
Well, they have provided that you can make an application to feed in a park. They're not denying you the right to feed in a park. You just got to make an application. And the Parks and Recreation has a list of parks where you can feed. And again, we're
But
not.
don't you have to pay for the?
No, everything's
you don't have
free.
to pay- you don't have to pay for the permit.
Nothing's free. And
Okay.
again, this whole ordinance is applied equally to everybody because it's not targeting people, it's targeting behavior. And that's the whole purpose. And again, and I can see where the caller is anti what and bringing food down. But again, the whole purpose of this was this organized groups showing up, massive feeding. You're not doing a massive feeding. You've got one or two
Some
dishes.
leftovers.
They're concerned with this mashing where they have 200 or 300 people lined up, paper plates, styrofoam cups, and they just leave. And if there's no trash, we know where the trash ends up at. There's no.
I see what you say.
There's no
Right.
regulation as to how that. We don't know how that. You know how your food was prepared.
Right.
We don't know how these other people's food prepared.
Right.
And
I'm
that's
Go
where
ahead,
we're
go ahead, caller. What do you think?
I think that's the main reason for this ordinance.
Yes.
They were trying to eliminate some of this I would call home cooking, to bring and feed to the home. They want to make it safe. But as some of the people were arguing in city council meeting the other day was that, you know, this is like one person said, well, hey, when God was feeding the multitude, I mean, you know, they went off into all of this for saying that, well, you know, it wasn't sanitary for him, so why are you trying to say that we're not sanitary? So, I mean, you know, it's a catch-22 phase. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. I do.
But I'm against the ordinance, believe it or not. I am totally against it.
Well, I'm always against more rules because it seems like I'm always against more rules, but I do understand the rule, and if it passes, I will certainly follow it because I do understand the need for it. I just wish we didn't have to do it like that. I just hate more rules and more regulations. It just drives me nuts as a citizen that the things I could do 30 years ago I can't do today. But that's in all aspects.
if this group,
Well, I mean, you know, it's something.
If y'all can explain to the homeless and the different families, the people that come there, to pick up after themselves,
Trash bags.
you know.
Yeah.
Tack it up against the tree and ask people to put the trash in that and have a way to
That's what I'm saying, like that.
Yeah, that's what Ricky's trying to say.
I'm going to hang up and listen to it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
Just
Ricky.
get the people to pick up after themselves. Say if y'all want to get fed, we're going to allow y'all to eat. But y'all pick up after y'all and throw away the trash.
Well, Ricky, you know those homeless people, half of them are
Okay, ain't got good sense.
They
don't know how to
crazy,
do
yeah.
it. But you got some
Cracked
that's
out,
there.
doped
Okay,
out.
just like me. But you got some people like me that have enough sense. Even you have to be your brother keeper. You got to be your brother keeper. You got to have people that come there
You need to go
and
to
pick
Loaves
up.
and Fishes then and do some preaching.
Can I take another call, y'all?
Not only that, but pick
Come on,
up
come on,
after.
Come on, Ricky, let me take this call. Caller,
Okay.
you're on.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
My thoughts of this ordinance, and what's next, we're going to cite people for handing out blankets.
Maybe.
Yeah,
No.
because the blanket wasn't washed the right way.
I'm just being sarcastic. Jim, take that call.
No, sir, it doesn't cover blankets.
It
covers-
don't. But
It covers food.
To do.
It covers food.
What-
But
what's your-
somebody gonna complain and say the blanket wasn't washed in the right detergent or something like that.
Okay, you just hold on. Caller,
Okay.
what's your opinion about the ordinance, caller?
I'm sorry?
What's your opinion about the ordinance?
I'm kind of mixed. I mean, I've been homeless, and I know there's plenty of places downtown to eat. Maybe the city could designate a specific place, like the park, where people can drop off food or donations. But I know that, for example, the Star of Hope, they serve meals constantly, but a lot of the homeless downtown don't want to follow the rules there, so they decide to stay outside.
Now, when you were homeless, were you a rule follower or did you not follow the rules?
I didn't know
20
the
seconds, you
rules.
wasn't a rule
Hold on.
follower.
What'd you say? What'd you say, sir?
He wasn't a rule follower.
What was your question again?
I said, were you one that followed the rules or were you one that didn't when you were
Oh, I
homeless?
followed the rules, definitely. 'Cause
Okay.
I wanted to get out of that lifestyle.
Well, that's good that you did that. Jim, you want to say something to him?
No, I commend you for calling in.
Thanks for calling in. Thanks for pulling yourself up. It's hard to do. We know that through our experience with Ricky, and he's pulling himself up too. Yeah, I like the compromise that you just mentioned, caller. That maybe there could be one park downtown where it's kind of away from the residential part because it is a lot of residential now. A lot of the parks, that were homeless related, like off of Travis, and now it's a dog park, and people do want it to be a little cleaner and they don't want it to be a feeding ground. So maybe there should be the one closest to City Hall maybe could be the one where it's fed, where it's feeding anytime you want, and routine crews to pick it up, like everybody's saying, have a lot of trash bags on the trees. And so if someone does want to just bring something, the homeless know that they can just get ad hoc food and eat at their own risk, because this is going to be the one, regulation-free area that's close to City Hall. Maybe we should compromise like that, but then have every other place have to go through this coalition of the homeless if you want to do it in some organized way. What do you think, Carla?
I don't really see, even being downtown during the holidays, I didn't really see it being that big of a problem. I mean, people would stop and drop off food. But it wasn't that much, and it was really quick. And, I mean, you would see trash on the sidewalks, but not an abundance of it.
Do you live close to downtown? Do you live downtown?
Not any longer.
Okay.
But I've been to the Star of Hope. I was homeless for quite a few days, and I went to one of their programs.
Congratulations, though.
Thank you. But they do have, they've got some programs where they can help you get back on your feet. There's a lot of restrictions, but they do provide meals, plenty of meals.
How would you feel if I had a dinner for my 17-year-old and you were out there on the street and I just brought you food? How would you feel about that? Leftovers.
If I was on the streets?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I'd be fine with that. I would be okay with that because being of sound mind and body, I know that there's a risk of accepting something like that. But when you're homeless, you take on this scavenger mentality.
Yeah,
Right.
you become a beast.
It's just part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling in. Do you have any other comments?
I just say, I just hope the city does the right thing, and there's an answer to homelessness.
Well, I do too. I hope there's a compromise that people can enjoy their housing, enjoy their living environments, but yet we have some civil liberties to where if I do want to bring some extra food, there's a place that I can take it, a designated place. And maybe I shouldn't just have the freedom to just go up under the bridge like I have done in the past. Maybe it should be a designated spot, but I would like to be able to still have some civil liberties. I just don't want my whole life to be regulated. But people who live downtown, I want them to enjoy, beautifying the city.
Yeah, well, that's a risk living downtown, but I really don't think it's that big of a problem.
Okay, well, thank you for calling in, and please continue to watch us on Wednesday nights where we talk about generally someone that's had a criminal record, a criminal background, and we kind of explore the criminal justice system. This one is kind of a different one because it's a new ordinance that's criminalizing conduct that's normally not criminal. So we just want to kind of talk about that tonight, but I appreciate you calling in. Congratulations, and keep up the good work.
Well, history, though, has taught us that people will not police themselves.
Right.
The Coalition of the Homeless and the food banks, Meals on Wheels, have tried to work with the various charities and the various organizations to try to get them to organize, and they refuse to do it. So historically, that's the only way we get people to conform their behavior is to say you're going to get a fine if you don't do it. Again, the question I propose to the listeners and to you, I think it would be a different situation if we had hundreds of homeless people in the downtown business district that were going hungry.
Right.
We don't have that. Houston is one of the most charitable cities in the world when it comes to helping the homeless people. I've talked to homeless people because I've lived downtown and asked them. People come from other cities to Houston because there's so many services available to the homeless. We got Search, we got the Beacon, we got various Star of Hope that will help, as this caller said, to get back up on their feet. And it's like Rick has. Rick is always looking for the hand up. He's not looking for a handout, he's looking for a hand up. He wants to be better. And we have that. And this ordinance is not denying anybody the right to feed except in an isolated situation. I still think it probably can be tweaked to where people like you, if you have one plate or two plates, you can bring it down. But the whole purpose of it is there. And in Dallas and other cities have, because we don't have zoning,
Right.
the cities that have zoning have actually designated feeding zones, saying, here is the place, if you, John the Baptist, Foot Washing Baptist Church, want to come and feed the homeless, you come to Smith, Jones, and Street any time of the day. You just come and show up, and the homeless know this is where the feeding is.
I like that idea. Hold that thought. We've had somebody holding for a minute. Come on, caller, you're on.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have several questions here, and first of all, we had a party a couple of years ago, and we had approximately 20-something pizzas left over. And
Pizzas.
after the party was over, we went downtown and we just gave it out to everybody that we saw down that was living downtown that was homeless. So my question now is, with the application process that everyone has to go through, how long is that application good for, and do you have to get it at each time you want to go and give some food out there?
My understanding of the ordinance, if you follow the steps of getting your permit, it is good until it's revoked, unless you are trying to feed like in a park. It's almost like doing a parade. You can't just go say, hey, we're going to have a parade today. You got to get a permit and designate your routes. Same way here, if you want to go to Tranquility Park or some other park to pass out pizzas on a given zone, you'd have to get permission. But from my reading of the ordinance, that once you follow the steps and pass the guidelines of the health department, your permit is good until it's revoked.
Okay, now if you don't have the permit and you, let's say like Ms. King indicated earlier, you have a house party, you have a lot of food left over and all this other stuff like this, and you want to just take it down there and give it to people. That means and if you don't have the permit, so that means you just throw the food away, and just like the gentleman indicated, you will go in the trash can and pull the food out the trash can. No. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And then designate a certain area downtown. We have hungry people and homeless people all over the city.
Sure.
So what and how is the city is equipped to deal with that?
Well, the Section A of 20-5, if I can read it to you, basically says religious, community-based, or other charitable organizations or individual desiring to conduct feeding activities. You're doing it without charge, payment, or compensation, basically have to follow these rules. So I think if I was a lawyer, which I am a lawyer, if I was defending you or Vivian, I would say that y'all were not engaged in feeding activities. You were just had some leftover food that you were dropping off. When the Meals and Not Bombs, I think is the name of their organization, when they show up with a big van ready to feed 200 people, that is engaging in feeding activity, in my opinion, of interpreting the law. So
they're not getting any money from anywhere, no organization to feed them. They just coming together and they might be coming out of their pocket to feed those individuals over there.
A lot of them are.
From what I'm listening to and you reading the audience and those organizations that you mentioned, it seems that they're trying to consolidate with just a few
I believe that.
agencies.
I believe that.
They're trying to coordinate. They're not going to deny
ain't nothing wrong
anybody to
with
feed.
being coordinated, but the Homeless for Coalition got a chairman. The search got, as a matter of fact, they had a thing on it where so many dollars was spent with the executive than they do with the feeding.
Well, what they're trying to do also, I appreciate that, Ricky, is the way that we're reading the statute is that they're trying to make every group, like if all these groups want to come and just feed the homeless, they want them to go through the coalition to make sure that the food is healthy, that it's safe, and that they get a permit. It is free. They don't have to pay for the permit or anything, but they can still feed the homeless in an organized way. But
what I'm hearing Jim them saying is they really worried about the trashing and the disrespect.
The trash is a minor situation because let me tell you what, if they go out there and they're going to feed someone, it's no problem for the individual to carry some trash bags with them over there and put out there.
And tell somebody to
And I've never done that. I've fed them before, but I don't think I thought about bringing trash bags. But now that we're having this conversation, if I ever did it again, and I think there are ways to get around the ordinance.
The new ordinance provides that they have to have
trash bags. I would do it in the future. Say like if I wanted to feed.
I can understand that.
If I wanted to feed, listen, Rick, if I wanted to feed the homeless, what I would do now is, with some leftovers, I would take it to one person. Say like Ricky said, if there's a whole bunch of people under the bridge, I would probably give it to one person with the bags and say, you do what you want to do with it.
But
and
make sure you clean up after yourself.
And then he gives it to everybody else.
Yeah, because the way I'm looking at this and looking at how a lot of these ordinances, like you say, we get overwhelmed with laws on this, and the next thing, like this gentleman indicated earlier, was that they're gonna want
you ain't got no soap for the blanket.
To give blankets out there and this type of stuff, and these people doing that from their heart. They just coming.
Right.
They might just pass and see people and go buy some food and come back and give it to them and everything else like that. So that means they're gonna get penalized if they don't have a application on file.
Yeah, it can get out of hand, especially with police officers trying to interpret it and
The
not
way
really
they want
understanding
to.
it. And people might get arrested as probable cause to start searching them. What concerns me is that how it can be flipped. And I think that before the city council actually passes it, they need to have some guidelines in which an individual can still be charitable to their brother, to their neighbor, and to their
Amen.
brother.
Yes,
And don't you agree?
yes, I do.
Thank you for your call, and we have 7 minutes, so we're going to try to let Jim explain what he wants to. And thank you for calling. And please watch me next Wednesday.
Watch you all the time.
Thank you. I have a strong male following. Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
I noticed. Well, for the listeners, if we have a lot of listeners, is that one of the things that gives me comfort in supporting this ordinance is that it's going to be coordinated by the Coalition of the Homeless and the Houston Food Bank. And the Houston Food Bank and the Coalition of the Homeless have a good feeling of how to distribute food and how to take care of our homeless here in Houston. I trust them. I'm not an expert in that. I don't think the city realizes they don't want to be in that. So they've turned to the people who are experts. And again, they're encouraging people to continue their charitable and good heart work, but us follow the rules and regulations to make sure everybody, property owners, our downtown residents, are treated as fairly as the homeless people are. And I also issue a challenge to all of the charities and organizations that do the street feeding. What I request that you do, since we have sufficient food, as this caller said, in the downtown area, that you pool your money and us provide housing for these people.
Amen.
They need a place to stay. They need a place to
Amen.
sleep. That gives them dignity. That gives them self-assurance. And the food, we don't need food. We need housing.
That's true.
What do you say about that, Ricky?
That's 100. You know, if you help the people get up off the street, you know, teach them how to be fishermen instead of just a receiver of fish, you know, teach them how to, you know, pick up the trash, help build the homeless, houses, homes and stuff for them, you know, teach them how to work, teach them how to think, broaden their mind, you know, educate them that, hey, you standing there, you getting something to eat, now do this and do this. Pick up the trash, go here, and give them a place to stay and stuff like that. And I believe also, not just give it to them, but make them earn it.
Oh, yeah, I think we should definitely make people earn it. But like you said, Ricky, everybody, you've been off drugs 10 years, but a lot of people on the street, you say, will fight you and try to take your money because you're crippled.
Yeah.
Ricky's been run over by a car when he was out in the street doing wrong. And he limps, and so he said he has big guys trying to take his money.
Because they feel like they can intimidate you.
He can
You
still
always
run
have
fast,
people.
Exactly.
You always have people that feel like they can intimidate you, you know?
But I think there needs to be, I think one of the things y'all touched upon is the housing, because what
It
frustrates
really-
me with young people, homeless people who have reformed, that there is no housing, adequate apartments or low-income housing for people.
And they don't
who,
want to give to the people that
because
been locked up.
because you have a felony record.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say,
You
because
know?
that
Then
frustrates me.
you don't have enough money, you know. Sometimes you don't have enough money and you got a job to eat, you know.
Right.
So you have to have somebody, a hands up, like he said, a hand up, which I applaud, you know. Not just a hand out, you know. I ain't just saying, hey, give me this for nothing. I'm willing to work for this and do this. But a lot of people see you coming, say, where you going? Like I say, once again, I see you lost. And they ask you, no, I know where I'm going. You know, because they're scared. Their mind is
But
so
talk
fixed
about,
on.
I don't want to hear that, Ricky. Tell me about what people say when they tell you, get a job when you're out hustling, hustling your peanuts in front of the...
But they go into court fighting, you know, drunk driving or, you know, they shoplift or something like that. And they go into court with somebody, and they say, get your job, you know? You out there, you trying to do right. You giving them something for their money.
Have you ever tried to get a job? Will someone hire you with your record?
You know, not only that, because I walk with this cane because I black out.
Okay.
And my indemnity, I'm not saying it right, or might be saying it right. You know, my insurance, they have to put a bond on me.
Okay.
You know, if a person hire me right now. If they hire me, you know, I got to have a $10,000 bond.
So you're not healthy enough?
People don't want to pay that. You go to a job now, and they gonna swear to God. They gonna swear that I would have hired him, but his record was this, that, and or something happened. But they don't want to pay that insurance, that indemnity. You know, which you can't blame too many people because they ain't making enough money to pay this for me. You know.
Okay.
You know?
Well, we're gonna wrap it up. We have about 3 minutes. So I'm gonna let you make a closing statement. I'm gonna let Mr. Stafford make a closing statement, and then I'll make a closing statement. So, what do you want people to know about the homeless and about feeding the homeless?
There are some that out there, like he say, asking just for a handout, you know, not a hand up. And I understand that irregardless, they still need to be fed, you know, because Jesus fed the multitude. Like he said, we don't want to go that deep, but sometimes you have to go. It's in the Bible. Do as you can for your neighbor, your brother's keeper.
All right, we got 2 minutes, Ricky. We're going to let
So
Mr. Stafford
I
close it out.
understand Mr. Stafford.
Can we give it to Mr. Stafford now?
Let him have it.
Thank you.
Well, as a downtown resident, a downtown business owner, I'm also on the downtown super neighborhood, and our whole goal is to make downtown Houston an attractive place for people to visit, for people to come as guests, people for the conventions, for developers to take a $2 million piece of property and make it to build a residential tower that would be worth $300 million, which means there would be more tax money to provide more services for the homeless, for the mentally ill. And if downtown is redeveloped, we will have more funds to help the people who need help. This is a step in the right direction. This is trying again to coordinate chaos, to make sure the food is distributed where it needs to go, make sure the people who need to be fed gets fed, instead of doing duplicate work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stafford.
I
Jim,
appreciate being
for coming in. He's a great criminal defense lawyer that's here to give his opinion. And thank you, Ricky, ex-con, ex-crack, but homeless and great. We love Ricky. All the lawyers down at the courthouse, we come to his aid whenever we can. Jim Stafford and his wife helped him get on his feet with selling his M&Ms that we look forward to when we leave court at 12 o'clock. He's a great guy, and I appreciate you telling your story because everybody doesn't have the courage to tell their story. And I'm sure it will enlighten someone and give somebody hope, just like the ex-homeless man that called in. So we really appreciate you doing that, Ricky. I appreciate it. Thank you, callers, for calling in, for tuning in to our show. I hope to have a great show for you again next Wednesday night between 6:30 and 7:30. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King, where I just seek the truth. Thank you.